Okay, great. So Yago, I wonder, would a good place to start be to dive into the work on the data processing you did, and then maybe we can discuss like what next steps will be. Like I have a few ideas for machine learning models and stuff like that. I don't know what you think, or if there's another way you want to go about it.
Okay, so first off, let me answer the Jakub question. I didn't get from Dune. I don't have much experience there, and I also don't have the premium account. So the first thing I did was going to compound subgraph, but there was still some data lacking in there. I think I would only be able to get the borrowing rates. I think there were not the deposit rates in there. So what I did was actually went to Compound's REST API, and there is a request there that you can like select an initial timestamp and an end timestamp, and then it will give you the market, kind of a market snapshot between those two timestamps. So what I did was just getting timestamps really close to each other, so that like I said, half an hour, and I just repeated that for the whole year. So that's how I got the compound data. And about how to start working on that, honestly, just open to suggestions. I think all of you have great experience in time series like that. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I've worked with time series before. And actually I was looking into like the state of the art for time series recently, expecting that they would be transformers, but it seems like transformers haven't like surpassed the state of the art like they have in all other deep learning fields, which is interesting. It sounds like feature engineering is still very much the main approach, which is kind of like the opposite to what deep learning is about. Like we want to engineer as few features as possible in deep learning and just let the neural networks do the work, but that doesn't seem to be the case in time series. It's probably only a matter of time. So like I'm definitely open to like diving into transformers and trying to work with those. When I worked with time series before, it was, I think I used a few different approaches. There's like classical techniques like ARIMA models and stuff like that, but they're kind of outdated now. Also, I just used a simple like feed forward network, which works pretty well. And in that case, like did lots of feature engineering for the time dimension, for example. So like I was saying last week, not only it's sometimes useful to like have multiple features for the time. So whether that's like season or like, you know, quarter or like all of these different ideas, because the more different features you give it for time, the more it can learn from relationships between these features. And so I have a few ideas for that as well. Yeah, like you said, Iago, it's such early days. I think we can just throw lots of different things at it and just start doing some data analysis and just seeing what works and what doesn't, I suppose.
Figured out my headphones, by the way. I was struggling with that. Yeah, no, I agree. So like one thing I was gonna add there is that one really good thing is that like there's lots of literature like and newfound, I guess, like innovation in terms of financial time series. So there shouldn't be like a lack of information we can grab from other sources. Obviously not specific to DeFi, but you know, I feel like even looking at like prediction of interest rates or you know, other various like financial instruments should translate pretty well.
I think there was a Kaggle competition for time series prediction as well. So it'll be really interesting to look at the solutions people came up with there and try and apply them here. I wonder, I don't know, Jakob, if you still have your Jupyter notebook up, for example, but would it be useful to like dive in and like share screen and just start having a look at the data?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah. One thing that I didn't do, but it's super, it should be pretty quick to do, is just plot the data. You know, I've just gathered, but I haven't looked at it too much, you know, in a visual way. So I think if we had some charts to look at, it would already be a good start.
Or even Iago, I know you mentioned how you gathered it, but like, is there any sort of quick screen share you could do to show us like what you used to like gather the data?
Yeah, 1 second.
I'm also working on a GitHub repo. I'm nearly finished just putting together a nice README and like links to all of the resources that you've all shared and stuff. And actually, that's if you can share with me your GitHub usernames in the DeFi channel, I can add you all as contributors. And then Jakob was saying as well, we could probably like put up the data set on the Ocean Marketplace as well to publicize and try and get other people interested, and we can, you know, link to
Yeah, I meant to do that, but I'm not very familiar with the Ocean protocol yet, so.
I can help you out if you want to publish. I can support.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see. I love how we're seeing Henry's like.
I muted you, Vienna.
I can share the code here pretty quick. What do you think?
Go for it. Yeah.
Or just how I got the data? Can I share here? Or?
Please.
Yeah. Okay. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty simple script that I've run. So this is the compound API URL, and what you can get, as I said, is sorry, it's here. You can get the snapshot between two timestamps. So first of all, you have to make a specific request for a token. So as we had selected, I had DAI, USDC, USDT, and ETH. So I just had to map each address to the actual name using a dictionary. And as we go over token by token, we have a starting date point, which is the start of the year, and the ending date point, I use just datetime.now, was the time I've run the script. And as we make the request, we just save the data. And after we save it, we just, like at the initial date, now it will be 30 minutes forward. And then the end date will, like the initial date will be the previous end date, and the end date will be 30 minutes forward. And then I just rerun on a while loop. So we will just getting 30 minutes data every now and then, and until we're on to the datetime.now. So I'm not sure if it was pretty clear to understand, but just a simple while loop iterating over dates to get this in using this request. I can also share this on the Ocean protocol if that's any helpful.
Yeah, and it'd be great if we can upload this to the shared repo as well.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, it was a pretty simple solution. Just had to make a research onto their APIs, and yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So this is an API. This isn't like a subgraph. Is that right?
Oh yeah, they have a subgraph, but I didn't think to be very helpful because it was lacking a lot of data points, and the API was way more complete. It's actually something very common that I've came across on DeFi. You know, some protocols have these great subgraphs where you can get pretty much all of the data you want, but they also have their own REST APIs or GraphQL APIs or WebSocket APIs, and yeah, just depends a lot.
So when you're using the API, all of that data, I guess they've kind of processed that from the blockchain and then put it in a database or something like that. Do you know how that works?
Yeah. I don't know 100%. Maybe Christian will have a better idea than me, but I imagine they're storing on a separate database.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I mean, it could be on top of like the graph or something, but I imagine just for simplicity's sake, like they just have an AWS server or something. I mean, it depends how like decentralized, you know, they want to be. Like storing this type of data on IPFS or something, I just don't think would make sense, like from a cost point of view, especially if it's not widely used. But I'm sure it's something you could ask actually, like in their Discord.
Yeah.
Cool. Really interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Jakob, then I guess, do you want to like get up a Jupyter notebook and we can start visualizing?
Yeah, sure. Can you see this?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I've just loaded the data, so looks like this, and then I've just created two separate data frames from it. So I guess we're going to want to predict the borrowing rate. So and then I suppose, well, I presume that the timestamp and the token would not be useful in this case, even though that probably we want to create like 3 distinct data sets for like DAI, USD. Oh, actually, like the distinct data sets for all of DAI, USDC, USDT, and ETH would probably be a good idea. And then I guess, at least using this data set, we would probably just model these 3 columns, like the deposit rate, borrow rate, and supply volume. I don't know if you think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I definitely think we should separate the data set into one for each token. Just makes more sense to analyze it.
Yeah. I mean, I can try to do that now and maybe do some plots, but I haven't worked with pandas for a while, so it might be just a little bit embarrassing how little I actually remember from the documentation.
I spend my time just using Google when I'm using pandas because I can't remember all the commands.
Yeah,
that often.
I think all of us do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, so I guess like we're gonna have a number of different time series, and like the hard problem is creating a relationship between the different time series. Like I know we talked about that before. I know we talked about different platforms before, I guess, having different borrowing rates. That's an added complexity. But like I think it makes the easiest thing is to keep each time series separate and treat it as its own separate thing in terms of parameters. And then maybe after that, we can look at relationships between the different time series as well somehow. But that's more complicated.
So you mean maybe first don't separate it into like DAI and ETH?
I would separate it, but then I'd keep each of those time series. When we're training a model, we would only consider the one time series.
Okay.
Jakob, I sent on the chat a little piece of code that should help you filtering the.
Thanks. Should maybe have not done that, but. Oh, okay.
Is it all caps? The ETH?
It might not be.
No, it seems like it is.
Try and run it again. Maybe when you run it a second time, it like emptied it, if you get me.
Yeah. See if it's still fine.
What's the like type of that column?
There's a space after the.
Oh yeah, there's a space. Yeah. There's a space after ETH in the brackets. If you go to the bottom, yeah.
There's a space character.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Oh, in that case, I can probably change this as well.
Yeah, nice. It'd be cool to get some background music while hacking. I might try to set that up.
Yeah, I think that you can stream music in Zoom.
Yeah. Just some like chill step or something like.
Oh no. Oh. Oh, right. Because this doesn't have a token. Cool.
Nice.
That seems to be, yeah, okay. And then also, I think Jupyter is missing the command that lets you highlight all of the
Oh yeah.
code and instantly change everything.
What's the difference with this one?
Oh, right. Because I need to do this.
Yeah, I think you're missing the borrowing rate as well on that list.
You know, I think I tried to, I did it the wrong way because you need to specify like a data frame.
So Y is like your label in this case, and then X
Yeah,
would be your
yeah. Now, I don't know, Pandas doesn't plot anything, does it?
No.
So.
No. But it's pretty easy to do it with the matplot library with pandas. It's pretty straightforward. I think you just have to specify the column names you want to plot.
Right. Let's see if I have a kernel that.
I think there was a bug with the matplot on Python 3. Like the last Python version. So I'm not sure which one you're running, but
I need to install.
Are you using Conda or?
Yeah.
You can just do an exclamation mark in one of the cells to run the command line.
Oh.
Yeah. Or we'll do it in its own cell. Conda install or whatever.
Okay.
Oh, it didn't work? Maybe restart the kernel.
I think it's because this is I think this is like a Python virtual environment, and I don't think that it itself, no, it's because it itself doesn't have Conda. So I need to add like a kernel that's from a Conda environment. Oh, but what might work is just, and then yeah. So now this Does anyone remember the
plt.subplots I usually use,
oh yeah.
and then just one.
Oh,
Number one. Oh yeah, number one, and then like fig size is the next one usually.
fig size?
Sorry, figs, like figure size.
Oh, fig size, right.
Yeah. It might work without fig size actually, so maybe it just.
All right.
I think if you just go like plt.plot and then the two the like
Oh,
the
yeah.
timestamp,
Oh yeah.
just but yeah, exactly. I think that's good
But we
enough.
want to do just great. And for this,
Timestamp?
I
Or just
don't think that
number?
this doesn't have timestamp. I think it only has it looks like this, except with
just the index then.
I think yeah, the index, yeah, exactly.
okay.
Just give it one
Yes.
parameter, I think.
That work?
I think just get rid of everything after the comma and just get on the comma. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice. Beautiful.
That's our data set. Yeah.
And now I can borrowing.
So one question is, so in this case, we're setting it up such that we use the X variables to predict Y, which is the borrowing rate, right?
Which X variables do you mean, like time or the?
Oh, I guess if we're just doing a time series, then there's no other variables to consider, right?
Yeah. So like, I guess the XS variables, like so borrow volume, for example, maybe we could use.
That's what I meant.
Oh yeah, that's what you meant. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, because like if I haven't worked with time series in a while, but like if we have all of these metrics plotted over time, then are you able to like use the other, so like your Y variable is borrowing rate, and then your X variables are like time, and then all of the other variables that match up with time that's like a multivariable time series, right?
Yeah. I think you can, yeah. I think I've done that before, if I remember.
So for each bit, I think if I understand it correctly, for each timestamp, we're going to just pass it just like a vector with the time and then the three variables. So our input is going to be, in this case, just 4 input nodes, I guess.
Yeah. And maybe
five.
Because I remember working on data sets as well, where like time is just a variable. Like it's not like a time series problem, but like it's more traditional problem where like the column itself is just like one of the variables that you consider in your model. Exactly. I don't know which one would perform better, but
yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Yeah, and you can even like I said, you can do multiple variables for the time. So one of them can be like the seconds, one of them can be the hour, one of them can be the minute, one of them can be like the season and all this sort of stuff. I have some code to do that, which we can try.
To even split the timestamps into other variables like
seasonality type things. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
Or even like have like a moving average column or like things like that, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess if this data is taken like every 30 minutes, then we could also like, I suppose there might be differences in like the morning and like depending on
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like humans live in these patterns. So like,
for like gas costs too, right? Like the cost of gas during those intervals probably has a big impact.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
I think there's a lot of like feature engineering we can do in terms of like just joining new columns in on time.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I thought it might be a little bit obvious, but it is interesting that the borrowing rates and the borrowing volume seem to be kind of correlated.
Yeah, you can kind of see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we like, I was while you were doing that, like I was trying to find out some answers in the compound white paper about like the interest rate mechanics, like, because I think that directly would affect like the borrowing rate, right? It is like if we can figure out the formula for how the borrowing rate changes, then I mean, we actually can't really include those in our model because there'd be like direct correlation, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to explore them anyway.
Because like, you know, the situation where like you're trying to predict something, but something like in your model like directly predicts it.
Yeah, it's kind of cheating.
Yeah.
It depends when you have that information. Like,
yeah, if you have it available, I guess
yeah,
it's fair game.
It would be interesting to even do some traditional stuff, like you can kind of see that there was a correlation there, but if there was a lag or like a phase lag or something like that. So if the borrowing rate lagged the volume or something like that, that means you could use the volume as a predictor of borrowing rate, for example.
Yeah, it just depends on how much time difference there is between the borrow volume change and then the borrow rate change, because it's like if it is something too quickly, then it will be hard to execute on top of that.
Yeah. For gas costs, is there an easy way that we could get something like gas costs? Like where would we get that data?
I think Dune should have some data sets on that, right, Christian?
Yeah, I think I shared one to you in like that. Remember that Google Drive that I sent with a bunch of data? I had gas cost, but they were specific to either compound or Aave. But they're also by day, but I could probably just rerun that with like a 30-minute interval or whatever interval we want to go with. The one thing that I'm thinking now is just like, if we want to add more and more variables, if we can get it by EVT block time, like I think that would be best, just because like there'll never be an issue by joining it on that specific time, because like 30 minutes could line up incorrectly if it's starting from a different time, you know what I mean? Whereas like, yeah. Or if you just go by block number even, which is the same as block time, then it'll always match up. You can join anything.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Usually for this type of stuff, like translating timestamps to block times, I've used Etherscan API, but I've only been able to like translate a timestamp into a block number. I haven't been able to do the opposite, like take a block number, turn that into a timestamp. So if any of you guys have done the work, it could be helpful.
I've never had to do that because like in Dune, for example, pretty much any smart contract that you query is going to have two parameters. One is EVT block time and one is block number. So they're always just like next to each other. So I've never had to like convert one or the other.
What did you call it? EVT, is it?
Yeah, EVT block time.
What does that
I forgot it. Maybe like Ethereum virtual time or something. I don't know.
I was thinking Ethereum virtual, yeah, as well.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a definition.
Yeah, but like that's really valuable as well, right? Combining different pieces of data into a single data set. And like what you can do on the Ocean Marketplace as well, you just give it a link to where the data is stored. So we could give it a link to like Google Drive with some file name .csv, and we can just keep updating that file name .csv, and then that becomes available on the Ocean Marketplace. So you don't have to keep launching a new data asset every time you change the data slightly. You just change the data at the URL where it's stored.
It seems that there is this block time on Dune. Is that, did you say, Christian, that's all SQL?
Yeah, Dune, yeah. So for example, I have a query right here that I just changed to give us the variable borrow rate on Aave by block time, by block. So it has 100,000 rows for USDC, DAI, USDT, and they don't do ETH. They actually do WETH or WETH. They don't accept ETH as collateral. I can send the query though. I just need to save it. I just sent it in the Zoom chat. Might take a second. Yeah, so if you look at the data below, it's basically just by, I just changed it to date, but I could also add in block number. But it's like specifically when that block was mined, it shows what the variable borrow rate is. I don't know why the stable one's not working. Maybe because some of those don't have the stable borrow rate, or it didn't change.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I think it only shows up if it changes.
What's the difference between the stable and variable?
So stable borrow rate is, it'll never change. So like if I borrow at that rate, the rate's never going to change. Whereas if I borrow at that, if tomorrow it could jump to, 10% or you're taking a risk.
Oh, right. Okay. How do they achieve a stable borrow rate? Like, is that just like
must be due to like some protocol math that says like it's not risky for us to offer at the stable borrow rate.
Okay. So can we maybe link this data to what Yago collected? Or
yeah, I can download it into a CSV. I got the pro account for Dune. There's a bunch of other data sets too, actually. Maybe I can just share, just to like give you an idea. I can share this thing that I shared with the window team a while back. Some of it's kind of incomplete, but it just gives you an idea of the data that we can get. And it's all, I changed it, all of it, so that it was queried by day, but we can change it to time. I didn't, just because I don't want to have like Google Sheets. I was keeping it all in Google Sheets and it was just too much data. Let's see, how do I share this with everyone?
I think if we could join the same 4 fields I've gathered for compound on Aave, then we could like compare them on the same like Richard said, on the same day, the same hour, the same season, just see if they're somehow correlated. I think that would be a good start.
Yeah, like we could try an experiment where we just try to use the time dimension. And if we can't predict it at all, we know that time isn't a predictor. And then maybe we can add in some other variables and stuff.
Yeah, in fact, if Jakub wants to put in one of these Aave CSV files, I think you can resample time series on pandas pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. I think we could take a look, maybe.
Yeah, I think the issue though with the ones in here is that they're all by day. So we want something that, but I could send over the one that's by block, and then we could change it to 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just download that right now.
Okay. There should be a way to maybe concatenate all of these data sets, right? For like the deposit rates and
yeah, I mean, we can certainly join them all. Like if we have, like block number, block time, we should be able to join it all in that, like with no issues. That's usually how I just do that directly in Dune, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, so this one was an interesting one. I can't take credit for this one. I found it somewhere and I just made a couple edits, but it's the cost of like the specific actions that you take. Because like gas cost is great to have, but like the cost of a deposit in Aave is actually going to be different than the cost of a deposit into Compound based on basically how efficient their smart contracts are, which is kind of cool. So I think the best way is probably to just download this or sorry, send it in the Discord, like the CSV file. It's a pretty big file.
Oh, right.
Except sometimes there's limits as to what you can upload. Okay, now it's gonna work.
Is this related to the Aave? Was it Aave you were talking about, Iago, that you said you could get more data for?
Yeah, exactly. But I haven't done it on Dune Analytics. I've just tried to use the graph.
Okay.
So just searching for previous block numbers on the graph. Like whenever you put in the query a block number, it will give it back the state of the blockchain when that block went up to the blockchain. So that's what I'm trying to do, but there's a lot of blocks and my code is still running. I think it would be much faster if we just get it from Dune if possible.
Yeah, so you have the one that I just uploaded. Yeah.
Yeah. Is this is it the Aave?
Yeah, Aave V2 borrow rates.
Just be a bit easier to.
Ideally, we add in like the deposit rates and stuff in there too, but I can upload one later that's identical in terms of date and we can just join them. So yeah, I think we need to set, it doesn't really matter, but like there's a lot of zeros in the, for the stable bar rate, we just set them to 0. Well, actually, I don't know if they are zeros.
Yeah, they're like non-values. You could fill them up with zeros though.
Yeah, for simplicity, but like, I don't think the actual stable borrowing rate at that time is 0. I might be wrong though.
Okay.
So in this case, do we want to predict the stable borrow rate or the variable borrow rate?
I'd say variable.
Yeah,
because compound's also variable.
Yeah.
We actually don't have to worry about the stable one unless it's just like an interesting variable to have.
Yeah, the only thing is that on Aave it's like wrapped if, so there's a W before.
Oh.
I think it's uppercase.
Capital A.
Oh. But
And the date's also weird. The format, but
yeah, I hate those date format.
yeah, it's just automatic from Dune. It's weird because it doesn't show it like that in Dune, but when you download it, it adds in something.
Maybe try the die one and see if they're all empty.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh.
It might be also, I don't know if this matters, but like if you check like what each variable is in terms of like if it's a string or, you know what I mean, just to see what we're working with, because it might have made them into weird.
I think it should be Aave on the first line there, not DF.
Yeah.
What if?
Which one?
The variable is
Like,
called DF instead of.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah.
No. Okay.
Nice.
Then
I'm not sure how the plotting is going to work with the not numbers. Might have to turn them to zeros. Maybe it'll work.
they just skip it.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to check about how I actually queried that because I just want to know why it's not a number because it's blank in Dune, like when you look at it. But
Yeah, it works.
obviously there was a borrowing rate at that time available. I just wonder if there was no change. That's why they didn't show it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the response is pretty different from Compound though.
Oh wait. I guess we. Oh wait, but we want. So these are 30 minutes apart as well.
The ones that I sent? No, they're by block.
Oh, okay.
So I'll have to transform it somehow. I guess we could use similar logic to what Iago did, like from the time in which the data set starts, create chunks of 30-minute blocks. But it's going to be approximate because it's...
Yeah.
So these blocks are... Oh, they're just a couple minutes
like
apart.
they're just blocks on Ethereum. So I guess it was just like the time in which each, like there won't be a set time. It'll be however long that block took to get mined.
Do you think that there's a problem if we just put these dates in timestamps as well? Like we would just have more data points for Avid and Compound. Do you think that's a big problem?
So, do you think we should like approximately split this data into 30-minute chunks based on the blocks?
I think the easier solution would be to just grab compound ones by EVT time, because it should be the exact same.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we're just like, it's fine if we keep the time series separate and we just try to make predictions off that time series. But if we want to do like cross correspondence between time series, I'd say it would be better to have them on the same.
Yeah, I guess they're kind of separate anyway, right? Like eventually we can use them both to see if there's any interplay, but we can just treat them as separate data sets for now.
For the start, yeah. Yeah, so like maybe we just do it when we need to.
Yeah, because this one has 100K rows. What's the other one? Yeah, 10,000. Or
Like,
how big?
Yeah. It has like 70K, but it's for the 4 tokens, so it should be like around 22 for each.
I guess it depends whether we want to use gas as well, right? Do we want to use gas quite quickly, or is that lower priority?
I think it would be pretty cool. Because
yeah, I guess
it affects too much, I think, to just ignore it.
Yeah, it should be pretty simple to do, except I don't know how you would do that for the 30-minute ones. I guess you could just take the average cost of gas for that 30 minutes. But for the EVT ones, it's pretty simple.
You should be able to get the gas cost based on a timestamp.
Right, but you're basically, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Are you like for the 30-minute ones, are you just taking the borrowing rate at that time, or are you taking the average over the last 30 minutes?
No, I think it's the last one, like at the end of the 30 minutes.
Okay. Okay, then yeah, that should be fine then, to just take it as a timestamp. The timestamp might just not line up exactly though.
Yeah, I guess. I also think it's just way more effective the gas costs you have, for the exact type of transaction you're making. So like depositing to Aave or borrowing to Aave is just way more accurate than just the general gas cost.
Yeah, that's true. Because like if the gas cost, like it might be cheap to, like send my tokens to someone to another address. But like if the cost of borrowing on Compound at that time is really expensive, that might be like an important variable. But I assume that's a function of the cost of gas at that time anyway.
Yeah. Do you think you could get a similar data set you got from Aave for Compound on Dune? So we don't have to use the 30 minutes one?
Yes. Yeah. Let me look for it right now, actually. Oh yeah, I had a problem with the compound ones where it's probably, so I was probably just lazy, but I had to write a different query for each asset. I forget why I did it though. Like instead of like querying all of them in the same query, I think it was, I don't remember why. I think it had something to do with decimals that I had to write like a case one thing and I just didn't do it. But I can send over like the USDC one by minute, or sorry, by block time right now. There's also something else that confused me, which was I was only able to query, because like when you're borrowing on Compound, like are you borrowing USDC or are you borrowing CUSDC? Like Compound USDC? I don't remember.
I think you're borrowing USDC, but you get the CUSDC as a token just to prove your borrowing. Because if I'm not mistaken, they have different values. Like the CUSDC doesn't have the same value as the USDC. I could
Well,
be
it
wrong.
might not be as, it might not be, I think it has the same value, but I don't think it's as composable. Like not as many other protocols accept CUSDC as, you know, something that you can use. My query is just confusing me because I did this a while ago, but
Did you guys ever use Qantopian before the platform? Did you come across it? It was like a Python library for working with stock market data, and so you could just like, you know, select which stock you wanted, which dates you wanted it between, which time step, and all that sort of stuff, and it loaded it straight into a Jupyter notebook. I was just thinking something like that would be so useful if you had like a Python package that had like, I don't know, Dune Analytics in the back end or something, and you could just, you know, import it and get it straight into a notebook. That would be so cool.
Yeah, there is also one called the Yahoo Finance package on Python as well, where you can just download how many historical data you want from the stock market as a data frame object. It's pretty powerful.
Very cool.
yeah, one thing that we want to do with like the company that I'm working on called Component, one thing we're trying to do is actually like create this data for as many protocols as possible, and then like make it available via API or eventually in Oracle. Like we want to put it on chain such that like smart contracts can use it. It's a big task, but like that's what we're raising money to do in part is to do a lot of that.
Nice.
So we can use it a lot in that and like in these sessions, but it'll take more time to get it all.
Did you say that would be for Python? Oh no, that would just be like collecting all the data sets together, and then I guess you could have a Python library on top or something.
Yeah, definitely. Like initially, like it would probably just be in the MVP would just be an API. But like for example, on DBank, which is a company that I don't know exactly what they do, but they have a list of like a pretty exhaustive list of all available protocols across various chains. And there's like 749 protocols that they have listed. So like if you think about, imagine if you had like the data, all of the important data from all of those protocols, there's so many opportunities for prediction, arbitrage, and things like that.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
The hard part's just getting the data.
Yeah, but like if you think about it, like DBank, they are already doing this for current data. So if you could somehow build something on top of DBank and just collecting their current data over a long period of time, then you could have your own data set of multiple protocols.
The thing is, I don't know, like for DBank, I don't know how exhaustive their data is. Like they have all these protocols listed. Yeah, so they have 743 protocols listed across 15 chains. That's on the link. But I don't know like how much data they actually have on the underlying protocols. if that
Got
makes
it.
sense. Like I don't, like I don't know if they, like I think someone is literally just finding these protocols, like a research analyst or something, and is like tagging it with the chain and like whether it's a lending protocol or a yield aggregator or a DEX. But I don't think they have like underlying, like they don't know like how the borrow rate is calculated on like beefy protocol or whatever.
Yeah, I think I've worked on the bank APIs a little bit. I think this list of supported protocols is pretty much like if you have any amount of cash or tokens deposited into one of these protocols, then the bank is able to track it and show to you on their like wallet
Right.
analyzer.
Kind of like a Zapper
Yeah, exactly like
alternative.
Zapper.
Right.
It's crazy how many protocols there are. Like,
yeah, it's insane. It's only going to get bigger, and there's only going to be more chains. So
yeah,
it's just growing so much. Like the total TVL of DeFi, I think, is like 200 billion or something, maybe more than that now. But if you think about that, that's not that much. Like if you consider BlackRock, like financial, they have 10 trillion asset under management, So when this explodes, it'll go crazy.
Yeah, and you can also see like how much DeFi had, I don't know, 3 months ago and compared to what we have now. And you see that's not too much. And in the next 3 months, you're just going to have more and more.
I wonder, is there, I've heard of this like issue with Uniswap where I think it's called like miner extractable value, where like a malicious miner, when they see that you're making like a big swap, they can write a transaction right before and right after to basically gain profit, but your price is going to get worse. And I think that's
same with your tech.
Yeah. So is that something that happens in these like yield aggregators as well, or like these yield protocols in some way?
Potentially. Yeah, actually it's possible. Like if you think about it, like if I'm coming in, and so say that there's a pool with like 100 mil liquidity, and I'm coming in and I'm like depositing 50 mil to that because I'm like a big whale or I'm an institution, and that's going to severely change the rates. So if like someone could take advantage of that, like either by front running it or doing something right after. That's one thing to be really concerned about in general for institutions, I think, is because they're going to, some of the liquidity pools aren't big enough to like handle their capital. And generally the bigger the pool of the underlying liquidity, the yields will drop. Like that's just generally like how the yield math works. So that's also like a big consideration in general.
I think that at least for the swapping, I know that CowSwap, I think, is solving that. I'm not sure how it works, but I wonder whether there can be like an equivalent to CowSwap, but in yield farming.
Yeah, kind of like warning you. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know enough on the back end, like as to how to protect against that. But like for example, Element Finance, which is the company that my brother works at, they have like a really interesting set of markets that they basically created that have fixed rates and variable rates. And like when you buy up all the fixed rates, for example, the fixed rates then go down, and then the variable rates are higher than the fixed rates, and then you can buy up variable rates, which will then drive up the fixed rates. And like there's kind of like a balance that happens. So if like you figure out how all the math like on the back end of the protocol works, and it's all public, you can figure out like how to always be in a strong position in those protocols. And we built our first DApp as a company. I think I mentioned it like a couple of weeks ago, but on top of Element that takes advantage of the situation when the variable rates are higher than the fixed rates. I can show that another time because there's no like ML really, but we build simulation into the UI so that like you can see, like we essentially simulate every single transaction on a mainnet fork, and you don't have to have any of those tokens available in your wallet. So you can kind of play around with it and see the consequences of your actions before you do them.
That's really cool. And what are you using for the simulations?
Originally, we used the mainnet fork, where we essentially like we update a fork of mainnet like continuously, so that the rates and things like that are all the exact same as they are on mainnet, but there's no gas costs. And per Zapper's smart contracts, like we fork them and use those so that like we'll basically zap from a 0x dead account with a ton of ETH, and we'll zap that ETH into your wallet, and then but like it doesn't actually go to your wallet because it's on a fork, and then we'll zap that into all of the weird tokens that Element accepts as collateral, as if you had like 10 million of those tokens yourself, and then you can test out the positions, but you can't actually do the transaction.
It's really
Yeah.
cool.
Really cool.
I actually played with the simulation yesterday, I think, and it's just really cool, man. Really amazing.
Yeah, all the rates are horrible right now, but at least that's good.
I'd love to see that some week. That would be great.
For sure.
Cool. Well, I think, yeah, we're over time now, but that's opened up everything really nicely. Now that we have the data, we can start like playing around with it with some models and stuff. So definitely going to dive in this week, and maybe like we can do some hacking on models next week and trying some different stuff or something like that. And what I'll do as well, I'll like make the GitHub repo tonight, and then if you guys can send me your usernames, I'll add you all, and we can start to like push the data processing codes. Maybe your notebook, Jakob, just for like viewing the data and stuff, and then like I'll push some stuff on models during the week, maybe, and maybe me and you, Jakob, can play around with that, and Yago or whoever else wants to. That'd be really cool. Yeah, it's exciting to see it come together.
Sadly, I'm more of an R person myself, but I want to. Python's pretty similar, so just a lot of Googling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like if you have any questions about Python or anything like that, or machine learning, like happy to support and help you get up to speed on whatever you want, really. So
sweet, that's great.
Looking forward to it. Cool. All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks
Very much.
Looking forward to next week.
Thank you. See you guys.
All right, see you guys.
Bye.
Thanks.